Hello, and welcome to Introducing Me. I'm your host, Sarah. I started this podcast to get to know other people and lifestyles while discovering more about myself. Each episode, I will give a new guest a chance to discuss their background, culture, interests, or whatever they want to talk about to help increase all of our own worldviews. Today, I would like to introduce you to Jonathan Duma. He is an organizational psychologist and leadership and career coach. He has consulted with various organizations on creating sustainable and thriving cultures that encourage diversity, equity, and inclusivity. So he's got a lot of great things going on for himself, and I'm super excited to have him share some wisdom today. So, Jonathan, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Awesome. Yes. Well, first, thank you so much for having me and inviting me on to your show. I always love to be on other people's podcasts. It's just, this is my favorite medium of communication. So it's always fun. Yeah, like you said, my name is Jonathan Dumas. I am an organizational psychologist, leadership and career coach, speaker, hopefully one day author. But yeah, I'm really passionate about work and seeing people thrive, and loving what they do. And if they're not loving what they do, at least what they do helps them get to do what they love, you know? Um, and then, I'm just like an everyday person. I love sports. Boston Celtics are my favorite basketball team. Love to stay active, go on hikes, travel with my partner. I've been to like 38 states. I'm trying to get to all 50 one day. Love to read. I read like 30 books last year, because obviously we were all in pandemic, so there was nothing really else for me to do. Um, but yeah, I just started my own business earlier this year, actually, after working for other people for a while. I decided to just, take the leap and do my own thing because I bounced around a good amount in my working life, simply looking for something that honestly wasn't there and available for me because like I needed to create it myself. And so I started Common Culture Coaching and Consulting back in May, I believe. And actually launch day was on December 6th. So that's officially like my, hi, I'm here world, for Common Culture. And I offer coaching services both individually and group, just helping people kind of understand, what they want out of their job, what they want out of work, what they want out of their careers, and then also helping people level up their leadership skills. And what I've found with helping individuals and groups is that work is really tied with what is going on in their lives. So sometimes we'll touch on, how do you perceive like your work really impacting your life? And vice versa, because I don't really believe that there ever was a difference between work and work life and personal life. And so those kind of blend, and it's trying to find harmony between those things. And then on the consulting side, I work with companies on organizational development things, particularly through a diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice lens. So if you're doing an organizational restructure, for example, how is that impacting everybody on the team? Are there power dynamics at play? And how can we, when we're doing this organizational restructure, divest from power where it's like this solo person into more of a team oriented, more of a collective kind of feel. So those are kind of like the dynamics that I work with there. Very in a nutshell for the most part. But that's a lot, but that is all that is encompassing of me that comes to mind.
Yeah. So, what is it that got you into, for yourself, wanting to thrive at work and then wanting to help others thrive at work?
That's a great question. So it actually comes down to like why I became an organizational psychologist. First of all, if you don't know what organizational psychology is, basically you got to think about like psychology and business and like those two things coming together. And so it's looking at, behaviors in the workplace, social behaviors in the workplace, communication, leadership, all those cool things that are like hip and trending now. Well, at least in my world, I don't know if everybody's keeping up with all that. But it actually started my last year of college, second semester. And so all of my life, since like 3 or 4, I was pretty certain that I was going to be a lawyer. I went to my undergrad, history, political science, just like so many people that go to their undergrad, they choose a major and then they don't do anything essentially with it afterwards. But I like had this like existential crisis second semester of my senior year of college, and saying like I don't want to go to law school. Like I really didn't. Uh, and I just like didn't know what to do. So I got this like civil servant job working for the city, and just worked at the city clerk's office, worked with documents all day. And as a lawyer, majority of the time you're actually working with documents. So I know for sure I did not want to be a lawyer after that. And so I was doing that job, and somebody like recommended me to go. It was at my alma mater, and I didn't have the greatest experience there, both working and as an undergrad. So I'm not going to really share their name. They don't get free publicity. But I went back to my alma mater, and as an admissions counselor. And I really, really loved this job because at the time I really, really loved my school. And so I wanted everybody to have that same experience. But what I noticed pretty quickly is that there was a lot of people that joined that job and loved interacting with students, loved hearing their stories, helping them, figure out what they want to do with their life, right? But what I saw in my group was that people loved it, and then within 6 months they were ready to quit. People were ready to leave, and it was not because the job was hard. It was difficult, a lot of hours. We were a little known school, so it was a grind to admit students, but it was more so that the management was terrible. Like the management was absolutely horrendous, like to a point where people had to go to therapy after. I mean, me personally, um, I experienced like high levels of anxiety that I've never experienced before, and depression in that role. And I was like, what is going on? Like I'm experiencing and feeling things that I've never felt before. Like, is there something wrong with me? And the more I like dug into it and looked at it, I decided that I was ready to go back to grad school. And I've stumbled upon this thing called organizational psychology, and it was answering a lot of questions for me. And so I'm in this program, and I'm like, wow, like this is it's answering all of the questions, because it's like, oh, it's actually nothing wrong with me. It's like really bad management, like not caring for people, not doing like the bare minimum of like, not just like happy birthday, but it's just like, you've been working really hard, like come in a little bit later in this day, you worked until 10, 11 o'clock at night, come in later the next day. It's totally fine. Like treating people like people. And so that's kind of where I fell in love with organizational psychology and wanting to like learn about thriving workplaces and developing thriving workplaces. But more so, I kept trying to figure out and land in a place that was that for me, and it just wasn't until I literally created my own job and started my own company. And that's where I felt and fit like I want to do this and support companies and support businesses and organizations do this even more full time. And so I did that a few months ago. Long answer, short question. Sorry about that, but yeah, all of that is kind of how I landed here today.
No worries. So, what is it like running your own business and being your own boss?
It is well, number one, there's always things to do. Always. Like I think and sometimes I get in my head with like all the stuff I need to do. Um but I think there is a level of autonomy that I didn't realize that I was lacking in any other position. Um and a desire not to succeed, but like it's more so of like how to explain this? Being my own like supervisor, working for myself allows me to say yes to the things I want to say yes to, and then no to the things I want to say no to. Um, I mean, I can set my own rules. I can decide who I want to work with, and have conversations with, and really set the values and standards of what I want common culture to be. Um, Instead of trying to match and fit into a box that doesn't really exist for me, because I'm the only one that of me that exists, right? And so instead of like trying to get to, find this company that aligns perfectly with everything that I am, I decided to create it and support companies to um, partner with their employees rather than just like kind of boss them and manage them around. And that's really like life giving to me. I didn't realize like I wanted that so much, but there's a lot of other things that go with that. Like I'm learning that like the 9 to 5 schedule does not work for me. And so it's still kind of like learning how to or unlearning that and learning like my own work schedule and learning my own workflow. Um, because sometimes I'll try and get up at 7, but like, or get up at 6:30 and then go to and start working at like 8. But actually, my brain functions the best. Like if I get up in the morning, I go to the gym, I make breakfast, I stretch, I go for a walk, I'll make my partner something to eat. Um, I'll watch like a show, and then like by like 9 or 10, that's when my brain is working, and then I'll work for like 2-3 hours, and then I need to go do something else, run some errands, come back and work for a few hours. So it's like learning my own workflows too. But it's really hard. I feel like people, there's this over, what is it? This infatuation with like hustle culture and having like a ton of side hustles, and it's not all it's cracked up to be. I feel like people are trying to create some safety net for themselves or have money in the bank and stuff like that with the extra side hustles, or just survive. But and I used to be that way, like, and still am to a certain degree. Like I'm still looking at like, oh, if I get one job and I can just like, put all that money in savings or put it towards student loans. But I feel like, this hustle and grind and like working 10 hours and 13 hours or whatever, it's just like you don't need to do that. And for some people that's like life giving to them. For me, I know for a fact that that's not. And so I'm trying to also learn or unlearn like the busyness culture that exists within America, and replace that with like stillness, mindfulness, slowness, not rushing to get things done. But I know that also there's a level of privilege with that because I have a partner that works full time. We used to be a dual income household. We don't have any kids. Um, the only bills that we have at this point is like student loans. We have 2 cars that are paid off and all that stuff. So I know there's a level of privilege that comes with that. And so I'm trying to find ways to navigate that well. But yeah, that's kind of what it is to be my own boss. I really do, or my own supervisor, work for myself. I really do love it and enjoy it, but there are some ups and downs with it. Working alone is not fun. So just trying to find community and stuff like that is really important to me. That's why sometimes I'll work in a coffee shop for a couple hours just to get people in the hustle bustle around me, so I can be more effective. So yeah.
Right, of course. Now, what would your perfect culture be like at a job? Like, what do you think companies should be doing?
Mm. So it's hard to say like a one fits all approach, and I don't actually do a one fits all approach. Like when I work at the company, my first thing is like I'm going to ask you a lot of questions. Um, I'm going to figure out what exists here. What is it? Why am I even here? To try and figure out how can we work together? Because I don't want to tell people what to do. Like that's not necessarily what how I go about consulting. I'm a thought partner, and work with my clients pretty closely to figure out a solution that works best for them. So, but what I do know, within cultures is that like there is like things that are absolutely wrong that should not exist, right? There shouldn't be, within a culture there, people should be treated like people. I believe that like unlimited PTO is the way to go. I believe that people should be able to have a living wage to survive instead of like not having to work, moonlight jobs, or have a situation that comes up in a family where, $500. I think I heard a stat the other day. I don't know if it's the same, but it's just like, a $500 situation. It doesn't matter if it's a car, um, medical bills or whatever. That could be like, that could really set up families or a person back, and I grew up in a situation where, it wasn't $500. It was like $50. An extra $50 would be a terrible situation for us, And so I think companies, culturally, um, can treat people like people, and it really does providing like a bare minimum situation as far as like a living wage that like not even bare minimum, a living wage, that people can live off of, that like if they need to take some time off to care for a loved one, um, or take care of some business, they're not guilted, because they're taking time off, or they don't miss anything, where somebody can have family leave, and have a job when they come back, and they're not forced out when they come back. um, uh, I don't know, where people can come into a workplace and be their full selves and not have to hide. I work with a predominantly in my coaching side, I work with people of color, and a lot of what I hear is like this kind of like dualistic life that they have um, to have when they go into the workplace. And so like they code switch uh, and become this other person that's not really truly authentically them, and not even just persons of color, but I'm thinking of um, the LGBTQ plus community. I'm thinking of the differently abled community. I'm thinking of immigrant community. I'm thinking of um, all sorts of people that come into a place that feel like they have to fit a certain look or idea, and I just don't think that that should exist. I think that people should be able to show up and be their full selves, and um, yeah, and that's it.
And did you find, like, when you were doing the corporate world, that you had to be a different person at the office than your authentic self?
Oh yeah, 100%. Oh gosh, I think. Have you ever heard of the Enneagram by chance?
Yes, I have. But do you want to go into it a little bit?
Just a little bit, because I'll give some context. It's like I know there's probably some Enneagram like fanatics out there, so I'm not gonna, but I will say like Enneagram is just like basically this personality test. It was developed, it's gained a lot of popularity, but basically it actually has like a ton of roots in all kinds of sort of backgrounds. But it's like a nine numbered system, and essentially each number has like this identity, but the identity of that number in particular is like rooted in like an insecurity or a part that like kind of like scares you a little bit, or a fear. And so it's like 1 through 9. I'm a 3 on the Enneagram, so the 3 is the performer, and that's rooted in like insecurity of like not being liked, or not being accepted. And so being in like corporate America, or being in like predominantly like white spaces, my like default setting was to like adapt. And so a good portion of like, I'll even say um my like of academia for me growing up, and bled into work life, was like me fitting into those spaces and becoming somebody that like was not truly authentically me, to the point where I did not know who Jonathan was. I didn't know what Jonathan wanted. I didn't know how I was, like who I was showing up. And so I was just like being swayed in all these other places. Um, yeah, and like that like was wild to me, because I just if you were to ask me like what I liked, I'd be like, I would just respond like, what do you like? What do you want to do? And I thought for a long time that that was because I was just so easygoing and easy, like go with the flow, which is true about me. But like I have opinions, I have thoughts, I have things that I want to give to the world. And I just wasn't doing that because I was afraid if I was my true self that I wouldn't be accepted, right? I wouldn't get as many opportunities. And this is true, it's true. Like if I'm my true blackety black self, that like in the corporate America, like um, I won't be given as many opportunities. I won't be seen as intelligent, right? Because if I speak with like a little bit of slang in the corporate world, if I don't um, uh, like the same things, I won't have the same opportunities. It's just a um, it is true psychologically, when we look at like how people connect and are attracted to one another. And I don't mean that in an intimate way. Typically, people are attracted to people that are in the same socioeconomic level that they are, the level socioeconomic status they are. And then also, they're more attracted to people that look like them. Um, and so, if you have more connection points, it's true. And a lot of the people that I was surrounded by were white. And I didn't have any real connection points with them. I grew up, poor. I had to take out a ton of loans to go to school. What my family didn't go on vacations, stuff like that. So I felt like I had to put on this act a good portion of my adult life, and it wasn't until probably like 4 or 5 years ago where I started to question and unravel those things, and interrogate um, where that came from. And a lot of it was internalized racism. A lot of it was things that I heard. A lot of it was other people's perceptions of me that I placed on myself. and people telling me that I'm going to be a lawyer all my life, or different things like that. And so, or even the one that's like, oh, you're one of the good ones and one of the good black guys or whatever, one of the good black people. So like there's stuff like that that I had to unearth and uncover for myself and kind of unlearn and relearn who is Jonathan, what does Jonathan want. And when I did that, well, number one, I got a really great job, and I mean, I ended up making a whole lot more money when I understood who I was and who I wanted to be, but also realized that like what I wanted to do, at least for this chapter of my life, and that's where common culture really was started, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing right now.
So, what is it that you recommend for companies to have cultures that have a good focus on DEI?
Mm. Well, well, there's two things. There's two things that I would say that immediately come to mind. So for organizations that want to care for their employees well, you have to listen to their employees and give up power, decision making, and decision making power and authority. And the reason why I say that is because like if a company culture says that like all decisions is made by one person or a small group of people, or like if somebody comes in, I'll just use this as an example. Hey, like I found that like instead of a laptop, I know that I'm on the move, I can go. I need a iPad. An iPad would make my job way easier. And so if a company it takes 40 decisions or like 10 decisions or all these different things, the line items to go up for yeses, that actually doesn't show true trust in the employee's competency and ability to do their job, and when they're telling you of what they need. Similarly, with DEI work, you have persons of color or historically excluded communities being asked all of these questions to spill all of their trauma essentially to companies, and companies are putting out these nicely written statements or hiring a DEI professional or a DEI head or CDO, which is a chief diversity officer, stuff like that. And they're expecting that to fix the culture. When DEIJ work is not like a checked box system. And so you have to divest, leaders within organizations have to divest from power and say, what are these communities saying? And take their suggestions and critique seriously and implement those things. And quite honestly, I love what I do as far as like DEIJ work, but realistically, I would like to just have a conversation of like, if y'all need help with an organizational restructure, like let's just do that. But it's unfortunate that the DEI part is like so crucial, specifically in the American context, because we just struggle with race, we struggle with LGBTQ plus, we struggle with ability, just seeing historically excluded people. And so you have to just listen to the historically excluded voices, listen to what they're saying, give them the power and agency to put those things into action and do them and stand by them. And I would also say that there needs to be accountability, a shared accountability, not only for individuals, but also for organizations. Like if somebody says you're doing this wrong, organizations shouldn't be making excuses as to, well, this is what we tried, or we hired this person, or covering it up. Take accountability for the things that you mess up on. Accept it. Take that criticism. Take all of the constructive criticism and put those things to work. And we understand that like it takes time. It's like DEI work is people work, and so it really does take time. But it's not a checkbox kind of deal. Yeah, it really does start with like divesting from power, which is really difficult because power is really addicting. Yeah, so those are in a snippet. That's what I would say. But learn more. You gotta hire me.
Of course.
Yeah.
So, why do you think it is so difficult to talk about underrepresentation?
Yeah. Well, I'll say this: it's not difficult. It's not difficult to talk about it in the sense that, like, me as a black person, I always say, I like my blackness. I mean, me being black is like political. Like anything I do as a black person is like this political act. And what I mean by that is that, like, if I if okay, so if something happens to me, oh, let's see. I'm trying to figure out like a real life situation that happened to me or something. I can't think of one, but I'm just thinking of like, think of any viral moment, right? Think of any viral moment that you've seen. The example that comes into to play right now actually is, I forget the man's name, but he was bird watching in the park. It happened last year. Bird watching in the park. This woman does not have her dog on the leash. He asks her to put the dog on the leash, and all of a sudden she weaponizes calling the police on this black man, in saying that he this big scary black man or whatever is coming to, is like harassing me, or like said he's going to harm me or hurt me. That wasn't, I mean, we don't know for sure that was the case, but what was based off of that video, that's not what was happening. In the video, you could actually see her harming her dog at the point because he was on the leash. But just telling that story, that's not innately political, right? But like you see like people will take that instance, and they will immediately have like these automatic judgment thoughts of like what's going on in that situation. But there's so many dynamics that happen in that situation that, like, me as a black person, I have learned from, like, since I came out of my mom's wound, of like how the world is, and how I'm treated because of my blackness, how my brothers are treated, how my mother is treated, because of my blackness in American society. And so for me and other persons, a large portion of persons of color, like, they know, and we talk about it all the time, to be honest. It is when I particularly talk to white people, that it gets more difficult, because like they actually don't talk about conversations around race, because they're literally not taught to talk about race. They're not examining their own race, and a lot of times race and ethnicity is conflated. They're not the same thing. Race is a made up construct, but we can't use the made up construct as an excuse not to talk about race, because race, as it was made up, was constructed to enslave darker skinned people, African people, indigenous folks, other communities like that. And so we can't use that as an excuse now not to talk about it. And so when we, and similarly with other things, but with other communities, but I think there is such a difficult time talking about it, because we literally don't know how. And we can look at that, like, education system, like, we as far as like black folks, we literally get like the month of February, and we talk about like four, there's like a staple of people, that we talk about: Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, some people, Malcolm X. But there is, within the black community, throughout history, black history is American history. And so like there are so many people that were incredible authors, incredible doctors, incredible engineers, inventors, that have their place in history, but we don't talk about them. And so there's like this siloed experience that happens depending on where you grow up, particularly, but also like what kind of education you're having and stuff like that. I know even for me, like, after I graduated with my master's degree, I had to go and search for all of the stuff I didn't learn about. Read James Baldwin, read Toni Morrison, read all of these incredible authors that I didn't get a chance to read growing up, and they would have been incredibly impactful. And so I think that that's the issue. And so if we want to talk about CRT, that's not a framework that is done within like elementary, middle school, or even high school, even like undergrad education. That's like a law school like framework, but something that would be similar to like understanding true history and understanding the many people that created where we are today would really help with the difficulty in talking about all kinds of difficult things. This is like, we just don't know, so we go based off of our own personal experiences, and that tends to be difficult and hard. But yeah, I was all over the place with that answer because it's just really hard answer to give.
That's okay. And to your
Yeah.
point of talking about like lived experiences, like everyone's lived experiences is different. And like when it comes to race, like you can't say, you have this lived experience of a race if you aren't of that race and haven't
Mm.
experienced that culture directly in your family.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now critical race theory, CRT, is a bit of a buzzword, I feel like
Mm.
right now.
Yeah.
It's grown in popularity. Um, and you did just mention it there. So can you talk a little bit more about what that is and why people are talking about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not like a CRT scholar. Literally heard about it within the last 8 to 9 months because that's when it got hot. But basically, what CRT is it's like a law school like framework of looking at policies, legislation, cases, looking at that and looking at it from a racial lens. Does this law or legislation or anything like that adversely, impact communities? Um, Due to like racism. Like that is like broad, from my memory of what it is. And so basically what why it's so hot right now it's become like this buzzword because like because honestly I was originally poli sci major in undergrad, so like our political system already gets on my nerves. Um, because what you learn in history, what you learn in my class, what you learn in political science class or whatever, just does not line up to what we see in America. So basically, what happens is that the Republicans have started to galvanize around like this idea that CRT is teaching white kids how to feel bad for being white, hate their white skin, um, and that this hardcore liberal left wants to like brainwash all these white kids into hating being white, which that's not what it is. But it's a Republicans are really good at selling fear and fear mongering. Like it's I mean it's worked. I mean yeah, we look at history, it just works. But the fact of the matter is that CRT isn't used in elementary school, middle school, um, undergrad, undergrad, high school, any of those things. It's a law school framework taught by law professors to examine law. But a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people are just drawn to this idea of like CRT, like critical race theory. What is that? And a good majority of the general public are not going to do the research. It's just like we're in a social media buzz kind of society now, and so whatever catchphrase that's hot on social media or is easy shareable or clickable, especially on Facebook, that's a minefield out there. It's just easy to share and galvanize people around like this fear, um, which in reality, if you were to reframe it and say like, do you think that it's important to learn about the true history of America? Yes. Um, like that's, I mean, if you put it that way, then like CRT actually isn't that scary. And a lot of people would actually agree that we need to learn the true history around America and not try and cover it up or whitewash it like we have been.
Yes. Now you mentioned that in kind of your self-discovery, there was internal racism. Is
Mm.
that something that you're still experiencing?
I think I think any person of color that lives in American society will deal with or is dealing with internalized racism all of the time. The reason is because like the reason is because it is racism is so pervasive in American society. It is like uh, the metaphor that always floats around is like we are fish in water, um, and like I know people that are not from the states that like immigrated here or went to school here, and they never even experienced American racism until they got here. Some of them, uh, were in like pretty diverse areas too of the world and like came here and like I've experienced racism, but this is another level. Um and so yeah, I think it's once you like see it and recognize it, it's really hard. But that's also not to say that every negative experience that I've ever had from a white person or a non-black person has been due to racism. I know I'm not, I'm more aware than that. But I can say that there's a lot of situations that I've been in that like have me questioning, like if I was a white guy, would this happen to me? If I was white, would I, would I be given the credit for the answers I've given in class? Would I be given the credit for the work that I did at that on my job? Would I be given a level of leniency? Would I not be treated differently or get those like weird comments after I do like a speaking gig or, do a speaking gig at my, friend's wedding that was like filled with like 95% white people. And people come up to me and saying like, wow, you are really articulate. You speak really well. Would I get that same thing? It's just like this subtlety and surprise. And before I would take those as like actual compliments that are not rooted in like this implicit bias of what people think of like blackness, of my blackness. Um, but I recognize like it's ignorance. And there's some people that I will do the work with because like I'm in a relationship with them. But there's other people that it's like not worth my time, and I will I will dust my shoes off and clean my hands of that and kind of walk away from that situation. But yeah, I think I'm still navigating that today. And haven't, and like I said, a lot of persons of color have to navigate that on a daily basis, just being American society of what it is.
And do you think American society will get better when it comes to racism in your lifetime?
In my lifetime, so I like to consider myself an optimistic realist. The optimism in me says that I really really want to believe that, but the realist in me says no. Um, and I have an article that I'll reference because of that. So there was, I think it was a New York Times article, basically looking at the Black Lives Matter movement pre 2020, 2020, and even post 2020, right? So we had all those uprisings, protests. There was like this unity after the murder of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and so the pre 2020, or even say 20 summer of 2020, um, outlook on the Black Lives Matter movement was pretty low. It was like I think it's 30-ish%. During that time, during the summer of 2020, it was at its highest point that it ever has been. Americans were on the side of Black Lives Matter movement. I think it was like 70% or something like that. It was wild, like wild. Like everywhere I saw more Black Lives Matter, you know, stuff everywhere. I mean, even in the community I live in, there every time I go for a walk, there's like I could count like 30 Black Lives Matter signs still up. And I'm like, cool, my neighborhood's awesome. But fast forward to today, and recently it was like a month, 2 months, people got surveyed again. It is lower. Black Lives Matter support is lower among white folks, um, uh, lower than the pre 2020 or pre summer 2020 rate. Why is that? And I think when people are, I'll be very specific, because, and I'm saying the black and white dichotomy. The reason why is because if racism is going to be solved in America, it is a problem that white people need to solve. It has to do with white people being in the spaces where they're hearing those racist comments, and not just towards black folks, but all communities, and calling those behaviors out. Because, like you mentioned earlier, um, I'm in an interracial marriage. I am one of in both sides of my partner's families. I am one of like 3 black people at all. And so anytime we go to a function that's on her side of the family, I am always the only or one of 2, right? And so it's very difficult for me to have conversations around, ending racism. You shouldn't say that. Stop doing that. And also exhausting. And it shouldn't be my job. And so for white people to have community and hear those things and being able to call it out and just being like, no, that's not right. That when we get to that point and it's consistent and it's like, and we're able to have conversations around race that are like not like, eh, then I think we'll be able to get to that point, but we're not nowhere close to that yet. Nowhere near it.
Right. I like the optimistic, realistic view of the
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah. And I feel like people hear that and they're just like, dang, this dude is so negative. Like, wow, he just keeps saying white people a lot and wow, like black this and all this stuff. And the fact of the matter is like, when you hear me say that, are you more offended or like, is it sin like this feeling in you because I'm saying that? Or I'm saying something wrong, or that you disagree with, or is there some like bias that is happening? And I think that's the thing that goes back to your question about like how do we have these difficult conversations. I feel like we have to be willing um, to interrogate and investigate those feelings a whole lot more so that we can have actual conversation. And I say that, and everything I'm saying is from my experience, not only from my experience, but my research, um, an examination of the workplace, of other lived experiences from other Black folks in marginal, historically excluded communities. That I can say this and almost say it definitively. That like racism exists in America. America is racist, and but the thing is that is something that can be fixed. That is not like something that's like innately you. It's a racism is not innately American. It's a characteristic of America, but it's something that can be changed and unlearned. Um, and so I think that idea, that concept needs to be embraced. Like racism, if you get called a racist, like it's not the end of the story. You can like unlearn it, explore it, figure that out, and like unlearn it because you're gonna make more mistakes. I make all kinds of mistakes all the time with my own like misogyny, sexism, ableism, homophobia, all those things. And I still have to interrogate that. But I have people that are in my life that are in those communities. And when I'm called out, I just accept it, apologize, and move forward and learn from those experiences. And I think the same thing can happen with the conversations around race and all those things.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
it's more than just black and white. It's more than just, you can only be this one thing, and you can learn and you can grow and you can unlearn things that you have dealt with for your entire life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, we have talked a little bit, or we've talked a good bit about you working and consulting with different companies. And you mentioned that when you work with individuals that they have tended to be people of color. So can you just talk a little bit about how you coach and work with individuals?
Absolutely. Um, so I love to coach. When I kind of like stumbled into it, like coaching, I'll just like give like a brief disclaimer. I feel like there's so many coaches that are popping up um, nowadays. It's really wild. But I will say this: like coaching is not, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a mentor. Um, I'm not somebody that's even telling you what to do. If you're working with me as an individual, you are. I believe that you are a competent person. I believe that you know what you're doing in your life. All I'm doing is I am partnering with you to kind of get a sense of direction. We're going on this journey together, and I'm going to treat you like the competent, smart, intelligent, awesome human being that you are. Um, and so what that means is I'm asking you a ton of questions. I'm not giving you immediately answers. I'm trying to let you unearth the answers that are already within you, so that you can find the places you want to get to. And it's a ton of like goal setting, you setting the goals, you telling us where we're going to go, and then we just run and rip after that. Um, what I have found in my coaching is that it is because I do leadership and career coaching, and my belief is that like work, or job, or careers are really intertwined with who we are. Um, like I've worked with folks that gotten laid off, and like they feel literally they feel like something is wrong with them because the company didn't want them anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like people experience that, and like that's really real. Like people feel like this sense of worthlessness, right? I feel I've worked with folks that just like feel so lost, like they've just been coasting. They don't know what else to do. Um, in their jobs and careers, and kind of like it touches on stuff in their personal life. Like, and so anytime I work with an individual, I always, let them know, like, I try and start with like a breathing exercise in the beginning, because we're about to do some heavy lifting. We're about to do some deep emotional work. And it's not always that, but, um, I encourage them to come ready to work, come ready to like think, come ready to navigate and explore, and remain curious about what you want out of your job, or what you want out of your life, so you can get what you want out of your job, right? So it is so fun. I just love it. I love it, and I learn, because like I'm coaching folks, but I'm learning so much about myself, and asking good questions, and hearing the aha moments, and um, learning more about like what I even want to do, when I grow up, you know what I'm saying? So it's really fun, working one-on-one with individuals.
Yeah. No, and that's good to hear that, while helping other people, you're learning about yourself. And I think a lot of people can just do that in their own day to day.
Hmm.
Now, before I start to wrap things up, is there anything else that you would like to share with the listeners about yourself?
Gosh. Hmm. I would say one thing about this is like I'm incredibly passionate about diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice. Um, and not because it's hot and fad, and it's okay to say like anti-racism or white supremacy, or all these different things. Like, it's okay to say stuff like that now. Like, still sends like a up people's spines now, um but I feel like you couldn't say things like that openly, like 2-3 years ago, or you would have been like this pariah or something like that. But um like, conversations around this, it's like it gets so, it's easy, but it's not easy. And I think the more we're willing to like have those difficult conversations and learn and grow, I think it um it becomes like second nature. Like, we're gonna figure this out. We can figure this out. I'm just trying to stay hopeful and optimistic, even though majority of this, it sounded like I'm just like dumping on America, or dumping on like how culture is done right now. Our organizational culture and companies' cultures are done right now. It's not true. I do the work that I do. I criticize the way that I criticize. I'm honest the way that I'm honest, because like I believe um, in like, as cheesy as it sounds, I believe in a better future. And even though it doesn't come in my lifetime, if, as long as we can do this thing together, it will eventually happen. And so I'm trying to keep that in the back of my mind. Um, so that way, you know, I don't stay up at night trying to figure out, I can't live in America anymore. So where am I going to go? So I'm trying to, I just love like this, love people so much. And I just want everybody to thrive and live authentically.
Yeah, and it is so important to hope for a better future, and as you just said, to live authentically. Now, at the end of every episode, I do ask a random question of all of my guests. So my question for you is, how would you handle a zombie apocalypse?
Oh, God, you're up in my alley here. So, the unfortunate part is that I live in LA County, so it's like heavily, heavily, heavily populated. Um, so one of the first things I would do is make sure that I communicate with my family. So we are at different points, but relatively close. We have a rendezvous point, um, and then make our way somehow to. It sounds weird, but make our way to uh, uh, like the high desert. So in Barstow, it's surrounded by, there's three like military points there. And so like make our way up to Barstow, because that place is like actually surrounded and it's a little bit more secluded, less populated. But I would get all the rations I already have like a earthquake kit that would be packed and ready to go. Have some, um, canned food, all that stuff, ready to go. But make sure all my loved ones are with me. Make sure we are gassed up, ready to go, and get to a more secluded place, isolated place. I'm good at gardening, so we're gonna set up a perimeter, make sure that we're secure and safe. Start making some food, start growing some food immediately, and hopefully hopefully bunker down and survive the apocalypse. Oh man, those are some of my like favorite movies, favorite games to play. The zombie apocalypse stuff, it's wild.
All right, that brings this episode to a close. I will be leaving a link in the description, of course, for Jonathan. It'll bring you to everything, related to his business, Common Culture, and good things that he is doing there in terms of events, consulting, calls, all that sort of thing. And along with, some social media and contact information if you would like to get in touch with him. So feel free to look into all of those resources. And if we're able to track down that New York Times article that he mentioned, that'll be a great resource as well. That'll be left in the description. And of course, if you would like to connect with the podcast, our website is in the description as well. That brings you to all of our social media, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So I'd love if you were to go check those pages out, give them a follow, and show that you are a great listener, and share this episode along with going back and listening to other episodes if you're newer. And of course, if you would like to support the podcast monetarily or be a guest on the podcast, information and my email address is in the description as well. So I'd love to hear from you. So thank you so much, Jonathan, for spending time with me today, and to my listeners for taking the time out of your day to hear a new story. Until next time, bye.
Thanks for having me. See ya.